Well, I'm here without Jacques, my friends. Maybe that's why I'm laughing. Shh, don't tell him. Sometimes you gotta just hit your own garden by yourself. Today, we've removed all of the beets in the back row. And let me tell you, it was a ton of beets, over 100 pounds. And I'm gonna be finally putting in my sauce garden. So when we harvested the beets this morning, I told Paul on our team, who helps out around the garden, I'd pay him $1 for every single pound worth of beets that we harvested. Before I get to the sauce garden, I wanted to show you just how desolate this row looks. All the carrots are still here. So the initial idea was to put a row of carrots here, a row of carrots here, and then we just threw some beets down the middle to make it look nice and pretty. But it turns out we got way more than we bargained for. Let's take a look at these carrots though. I mean, come on, these guys are that's pretty sizable. That is pretty dang good. The tomatoes that we're putting in for today's sauce garden are 100% San Marzano, started from seed, and we've done a little bit of pruning on them, but fortunately I didn't wait too long. These all look pretty good. I would say some of the ones in the Epic 4 cells are a touch long, but we're gonna have to do the same thing we did a few weeks back when we planted all of our indeterminate big boy tomatoes. And just a quick update on those are all looking really good. We've got a little bit of leaf curl on here. I think it's just a bit of wind because I don't see too many issues with the plants, but all of them I buried about 12 inches deep with the power planter, and I'm seeing some great growth. Like, we've trained them all up. You've got some nice tomatoes forming. Well, that one's a little bit weird. There's a little zippering on that one. You can see it right there, but the rest of them are fine. And just because I like to tease you guys before I get to the meat of the video, the asparagus patch is wild. I don't have any more asparagus to harvest except for arguably this one, but I think this one's a touch too long. So this is the bushiest I've ever seen the patch, which means that next year it's going to be killer. The chamomile is doing really well. We're running an experiment right now where we used 15 different bags of soil, same plant, same watering schedule, same everything else, and just seeing what the difference is. And as you can see, the difference is pretty stark. I'm very excited because I actually don't even know what soil is in what bag. Jacques is running this experiment for us, keeping it on the DL for me. So I can't believe that there's that much of a difference. I mean, take a look at this pepper versus some of the taller ones down there, or even just this guy right here. It's just the soil that's different, nothing else, which is pretty shocking. And then on the note of tomatoes, take a look at this. We planted 3 tomatoes, the exact same variety, but we planted this one at the surface level. We buried this one deep, and we planted this one on its side and then tilted it up. And you can see that there is a bit of a difference in their performance. So we're working on that right now. We're growing all these different potatoes, 7 different ways of growing potatoes. Ruth Stout, a couple different depths we're planting, a trench and 2 buckets, and that is going really well. And then take a look at this. Oh, by the way, we're also testing, is it better to single lead or double lead your tomatoes? So you'll see that out pretty soon on the main channel. But over here, I'm pretty surprised at the size of some of the onions in that great onion experiment that we set up so long ago. It's been about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months now. There's some big old onions here. So in the back garden this year, I'm so stoked because we're finally testing a lot of these commonly held pieces of gardening wisdom. And yeah, it's not a super scientific experiment, but it's the best we can do. We're having some fun with it, and all those results will be out for you soon. But let's get on over and start getting the sauce garden in the ground. Okay, I'm trying something just a touch different for my sauce garden this year. Last year, it was up in the front yard in my 8x4 Birdie's raised bed where I've done strawberries and where currently the garlic is. This year, I thought, why not throw it back here? I've never put tomatoes back here, and I just think it's a really good spot to have a line of beautiful saucing tomatoes. So what I'm gonna do, I still have my carrots in ground, although they're getting fewer and far between as I snack on them. But I'm gonna come in right in the center where the beets were, and the beets, fortunately, kind of really loosened up this soil. It's been really nice. So I'm digging big holes, but the thing I'm doing that's a little bit different is, although the San Marzanos, you can grow them sort of as a bushing style tomato if you want to, I'm going to go in with pretty simple but sturdy bamboo stakes. And I'm gonna use the post hole digger, well, maybe not, and just figure out a way to affix these in the soil. I'll probably go down to this first little notch here because I want this fat wall, but I don't want to set up a Florida weave or a bunch of cages. So we're gonna see if this works. So crucially, when I put in the stake, I'm making sure that I don't stab it through the roots. I'm actually kind of loosening up the pot and allowing some of that soil on one of the sides to shear off, and then getting this as close to the main stem as I can while not ripping up the roots, which, you know, it's not the end of the world, but if I can avoid it, I would prefer to. So in we go with our first one. You know, I might even use something like a tamper to keep this nice and sturdy down the line. Spacing wise, I'm gonna try and keep this to at least 18 inches minimum. So to me, this would be a touch too close. I'm gonna go about here. I've noticed that in the indeterminates that I showed you earlier on, I've had a lot of success with 2 feet spacing, especially for these big bushy guys that are gonna be growing for a long part of the season, which means that they're way more susceptible, especially as that season starts to wane off in the August, September, to all sorts of different diseases. So the more airflow I can give them, the better. I'm gonna do the same thing here. I have to say, this is a welcome change from the beets. I'm very, very excited to see how this does this season. So now I have the Marzanos that are a little bit less optimal. These are the stretched out guys. So I'll bury them deep, but I'm not gonna bury them as deep as I buried the indeterminates. I'm just gonna kind of shove them in here and hope for the best. What I noticed with the indeterminates that I did this with is they did slow down a touch over the transition period, and now they're really ramping up. So I expect the same pattern to happen here, just while those roots start to develop on the buried stem. Seems like tomatoes want to slow down just a touch, which is fine as long as there's enough time in the season for them to catch up. I ran out of big stakes, which is fine, but I really want them. So I'm just gonna use some of these smaller bamboo stakes for now, and I will grab some more at the nursery because I really like that 8-foot stake or 6-7 foot stake. 4 is just not enough for me for the amount of sauce I'm trying to grow, guys. I'm trying to make like cauldrons of sauce. I'm gonna be the sauce witch, the sauce warlock. Is witch a gendered term? Like, can I not be one if I'm a guy? How does it work? Okay, let's get the rest of these in. Then I got something really cool to show you over at the compost bin. No new tomato patch is complete without a sexy little top dressing of homemade compost, and that's what I wanted to show you guys. This is the first time we've ever applied our own compost to the garden in the amounts that I'm about to show you. So, oh hey Chetty, how you doing? We let all the hens out here yesterday. So this is an entire bed of what will then be squash, completely covered in fresh compost that we just applied. And then over here, this looks a little messy right now, but same idea. We put a ton of new compost here in advance of some of the summer planting. There's gonna be more beans here, some peppers, these cabbages are gonna move. And so I need to do the same thing over here, because although we've got some really nice soil in this area, I want to use compost as mulch given that I have it. Chetty, get out of here. So we actually just used a ton and we rebuilt this pile. This pile, nice and hot, looks like we're about 110 degrees. This pile is the one I'm gonna steal from though, put it in here and apply it to there. It's taken me about a year to get a full bin of pretty well broken down compost. There's still a couple chunks in here, but nothing too concerning. So I'm very excited because it's just been a long time coming of recycling my own materials here at the homestead back into the garden. I mean, most of the stuff that you see here is either composted down chicken droppings from the Epic Thickies or just material that didn't get its way into the kitchen, you know, like little greens and toppings and roots and stems and stuff like that. So let's get it in there. While I spread the compost out, if I can, I'm gonna bury the drip line. These lines have been around for, I don't know, at least a year, maybe a little bit more, maybe 2 years. And while they are UV resistant, I don't see a point in testing that. Why not extend their life as much as possible? The drip emitters are facing up so they can kind of spill over and distribute across both sides, which is really nice. And I'm gonna run them instead of watering this in by hand after I'm done with this, so that I get a little bit more seepage and deep watering after just planting out these tomatoes. Chetty's already making her way through here. I just saw her picking, but here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to run the backyard for about half an hour. There we go. And I'll show you how this works. We've shown you before, but you can hear it starting to pressurize or deep pressurize, whatever. There you go. So take a look. I'm just gonna let it drip out for a touch and let all these tomatoes settle in while Chetty does her best to clean up all these little pill bugs while not, hopefully, ruining the compost that I just put out, Chetty. Don't ruin it. While the tomatoes are watering, I'm coming up to the front yard. I haven't actually shown you this too much this season. So the artichoke are looking pretty good, although they're so heavy now in their 3rd year that they're starting to fall over. Like that one fell over, that one fell over, that one fell over. But the sleeper hit, this is something that my girlfriend really was a fan of. I don't even think she knows yet that it's starting, the bracts are starting to form on this bougainvillea, as my grandmother would say. So the whole goal here is to get it to start climbing up. So I think this is the season where it's gonna make it all the way up the chimney, which is a defunct chimney on my house. We got the one that has the orange bracts, which I personally think looks beautiful. I'm very used to the purple one. I grew up with it as a kid. The Cecile Brunner arch is doing really well, but take a look at this. This is the Easy on the Eyes rose from Heirloom Roses. Look at how many there are in one cluster. This is 4th of July, of course, looking like a bit of a firework. And then the green rose, which I have to say, it's a novelty. I wouldn't say it's my favorite rose, because frankly, it's hard to tell when it's actually flowering. And then we get the garlic up here. So the garlic's starting to look a bit sparse. Actually, just for you guys, I'm very curious. I'm gonna pull one Montana Zemo out a bit early. Okay, so this is very reassuring. So remember last year I lost almost all my garlic. This year it looks like I at least have some decent formation on the bulbs and no rust. It's just dying a little earlier than I expected. I should be harvesting this in June, but it's early May. So I'm a little bit surprised, but I'm at least encouraged. The one thing you want to do if you're still growing garlic right now is stop fertilizing it, especially with nitrogen in the last month of its growth. Just water, and you can even dial the water back a touch. That's pretty much what I'm gonna do here. You'll see a garlic episode pretty soon on the homestead. This is the worst I've ever had the Bermuda grass. Like by far I lost the battle because this looks like a complete field. But the peaches, the nectarines, and the citrus are looking very good. I would say we're probably about, I don't know, a month and a half-ish away from a peach harvest. The best I've ever seen my apples. I was with Tom Spellman. He showed me how to prune the apple just a touch better. And as you can see, the structure of this tree is a lot more balanced and there's way more fruit. And something interesting is, take a look at the size of fruit here. These are all relatively small. They're all right next to one another. Let me see if I can hunt down an example. Yeah, take a look at this. One is huge. Groups are smaller. And pomegranates are doing really well. You can't even tell where one ends and another begins. And then these papayas are doing great. Still waiting on one to ripen up. I don't really want to use one green just yet, but I'm pretty stoked. The fig is looking pretty damn good. I'm excited for fruit, but the loquat is done for the season. I'm sad, the girlfriend's sad. Jacques probably over at his place crying right now because let's be honest, that guy steals a lot of loquats from me. So that's it for today, guys. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.